What's up, Geeks and Gamers? It's Odin coming back with a video, and today we've got the box office breakdown from this past weekend, which saw new releases: The Bad Guys, The Northman, and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nicolas Cage. I've been able to see The Northman. I don't really have a desire to see The Bad Guys, and I might be going to see The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent at some point this week, but I still need to figure out my timing. But we've got some big stories to talk about, of course, because Fantastic Beasts, in its second week of release, has seen a pretty massive drop-off domestically. Not looking very good for this film. We've got the overall projections on what this film is likely to make, or more likely to lose, in the course and over the course of its run. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is continuing to do strong. The Northman, though it definitely is performing relatively well for if this had been a lower budget film, because of the massive price tag of the movie, it is very much in danger at this point in time. So, before we're going any further, though, into that information, please make sure to smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching us over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So as you can see, The Bad Guys came in at the #1 spot this week. I think that I myself am actually quite surprised by it. Obviously, it's an animated film, and so it's definitely going to be the one that brings a lot of the families out, right, of the parents with the kids out to the theater, as Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is also doing that as well, and only saw 48% drop. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that is, in its third week of release, which is a pretty strong hold. In that third week, it is at $145.8 million in its total domestic at this point, so it is doing very, very well and is looking to easily surpass the original film and beyond, really. I mean, again, it's just quite amazing what this film is being able to accomplish. But The Bad Guys, I gotta give kudos to them, gotta give kudos to Universal, because they obviously, in their marketing, was able to get enough people to go out and see this film. I've heard some mixed things about it. I myself don't have that much interest in going to see it because of some of the voice actors they have in the film. So, for instance, Lily Singh is in the film, and I don't want to see anything with her in it, or if I have to hear her voice, not really something I just care to see at all. And so, therefore, that's right now my initial plan. But $24 million in the opening weekend for this film, coming in at #1. Definitely something I'm sure they are very happy about, and a pretty strong opening for a film like this. And we do have some numbers that we can talk about as far as how much the film was projected to have cost and where this film likely will end up by the end of its run. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as I mentioned, very, very strong, starting to lose theaters as it's now in its third week of release, and that's when the studios start to pull from different theaters, but obviously still in a lot, and therefore still performing quite well, and their per theater number is quite strong. Not nearly as strong is the Fantastic Beasts Secrets of Dumbledore film, because this film only made $14 million in its second week of release, dropping a whopping 67%. But to me, I think the most notable thing is the fact that it only beat out The Northman by $2 million. So Fantastic Beasts, in its second week, massive franchise, massive marketing campaign, huge, versus The Northman, which, though it does have a pretty sizable budget for a film like it, definitely not as big of a marketing budget, definitely not as big of a marketing presence, and definitely not a part of a major franchise that's going to be able to, and try to be able to, squeeze more money out of people from, with the clear cash grab that the entire franchise really has been up to this point. The fact that it only beat out The Northman by $2 million in its second week is pretty sad. It had over 1,000 theaters advantage over The Northman. The Northman also is a rated R film, and it is a film that not a lot of people are going to see, and likely will not actually go to see, because it is definitely not a mainstream mainstream film for a lot of people. It has a lot of mysticism in the film, a lot of Icelandic and Norse mysticism in it, and there are certain scenes that I think are just a little bit too off the walls for me personally. I wasn't the biggest fan of the film in general. I did appreciate a lot of the elements of it. I gave it a solid B, and so I definitely think that there's a lot of good things to say, but it is yet another Robert Eggers film, and if you've ever seen Robert Eggers films before, whether it is The Witch or whether it is The Lighthouse, you know that he's got these weird things that he does, and he continues that in this film too. Definitely think this is probably the most palatable of the three, but it is still one that's tough for a lot of people, and so I imagine that people who are going to see this either are going to love it or going to hate it, and then those that love it, those are going to be two categories. They're going to be those that love it and will recommend it for other people to go see, and then you'll have the people that love it but say, yeah, you know what, I don't think I can really recommend it because I don't know exactly how you would feel about this given film or not. I would say if you do have any interest in seeing the film, see it in theaters. Again, if you want to support films like this, that even though it had a definitely sizable budget compared to some of the other, lower budget films, this definitely still feels like an independent film. But the reason why that's important is because, not because rather, that making money means a movie is good, but rather making money means the studio will look at that to say, okay, that means that you like films like this and you want more films like this, and so therefore we will continue to greenlight projects that are original like this. And that's not really what's going on here. Now, obviously, you could say, well, it's not really original. You have Macbeth, you have the original, legend, of course, that's based upon, which, of course, Macbeth has a lot of inspiration from, too. And that is, again, all fair. But if these are the kinds of movies that you want to go see, guess what? You got to support these films. These films got to make their money back. And that's why I do have to say that I think Focus Features and Robert Eggers did a little bit too much here, making a film that cost way too much money. This is a film that I think could have been made as well for a lot less, for about maybe half or less than half of the projected budget, which is around, $80 million or so, somewhere between $70 and $90 million, depending on the source that you read. So I think that they spent way too much money on it personally. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent also came in costing $30 million, actually a lot more than I had originally thought that it might cost, but it made $7.1 million in its opening weekend domestically. It's pretty small for a Nicolas Cage film, right? So you have Nicolas Cage playing himself and kind of getting in on the Nicolas Cage jokes. So you would think that that kind of, self-awareness would bring a lot of his fans and a lot of people that are fans of meme culture out. Apparently not really a whole lot of people have gone out to see this film. So $7.7 million means that this film, even with its lower budget, might be in some trouble. Everything Everywhere All at Once continues to, again, surprise a lot of people, I think. A24, weird release strategy. I think it's going to end up biting them in the long run, but still made another $5.4 million, only a 12% drop in its fifth week of release, though it is starting to lose theaters while it's been gaining theaters almost in every other subsequent week. The Lost City came in at number 7 with $4.3 million, a 30% hold from the previous week, and pretty much made as much as it's going to make at this point. Father Stu in its second week of release dropped 38%, so a very strong hold for this film, making another $3.3 million, but because of the original box office, the opening weekend not being nearly as strong as it should be, or rather that it would need to be on the pathway to success, and because we don't have the budget yet for this film, it's hard to say whether or not this film is a success or not. Morbius came in at number 9, $2.2 million, another 52% drop, dropping massive amounts of theaters. And this, to me, tells a sign that the studio understands this movie is not likely to make its money back officially, which is a bit of a surprise because this film was basically guaranteed just if it had followed any basic, normal, typical Sony release or any other type of release from a bigger budget film, comics-based film. But because it had massive drop-offs so much every single week, continuing to drop over 50% even in its fourth week, it has led to this film kind of falling towards the lower end of its projections, which means this film could end up being a negative and could maybe make it up in the Blu-ray 4K, movies, but it's not that good of a film for me, at least, to say that you should be able to and look forward to getting that. Ambulance in its third week of release, also Universal, man, dropping it over thousands screens after just 3 weeks. Yeah, again, the cinematography for this film is trash, and I think that is having a huge impact on people not going to see it and people not recommending it, because I, even though think that there's a half-decent story underneath it, cannot recommend this film to anyone because I think that you and a lot of people will just walk out of it with a giant headache because of so much shaky cam usage to an excessive degree. Pretty bad. And then coming in at number 11 is the $1.5 million of the 8th week of The Batman. So Batman's still hanging around. Even though it's on HBO Max now, people still going to see it in theaters. But that's probably why you saw a bit of a bigger drop-off there. And it is also starting to leave theaters because it's already available now on streaming and pretty soon to be available on physical media. So The Bad Guys has made $87.1 million worldwide. So again, pretty strong start for this film. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 continues to, again, get very, very close already, even after just a few weeks, to that of the original, and now at $287.8 million worldwide. The first film only made around $300 million, so this film will easily surpass that, and the question really is, how much money will that film actually make? Different story for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, which has only made $280 million, and look at this discrepancy here. No one in the domestic marketplace, no one in North America is going to see this film. This film probably won't even reach $100 million domestically, which is pretty atrocious. And then the international number is a bit deceptive because this film had an early release internationally where it made about $50 million in that early release. And so it's made about $150 million or so since that time, just from the international market. So clearly, people from different countries across the world are finding some interest in the movie. However, it is definitely not something that they should be very happy with because this film, not looking good as far as the overall projections on it. So basically, we're making projections on this film now to most likely lose money, especially if it continues to have massive drop-offs week on to week on. I think it'll have a similar drop-off process as Morbius, and if it does follow in the same track as Morbius and then the drop-off, it will not be a good thing. It has raked in $15.7 million from China, meaning that it's given 75% of that $15 million to the Chinese Communist Party. And so, therefore, it continues to fund communist regimes across the world. The Northman, as I said, did start off a little bit stronger than I think some people, myself included, would have expected. Now it's it's opened up to $23.5 million. But as I mentioned, having that $80 million or so production budget means that it needs to make a lot more than that to break even. So, again, making money is not the sign of a good film. However, it is a sign to a studio of whether or not you want to see these kinds of films or whether or not they should spend the kind of money that they do on these kinds of films. And so if you've seen the film or you really want to see the film and you want to see more of these kinds of films, this film's got to make its money back, and it's got a long way to go, and I just personally do not see it really in the cards for this film, at least at this point in time. The unbearable weight of massive talent at $7.1 million in its opening. Again, only domestic numbers showing for that film so far. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm going to go see this film tomorrow, and so I'm interested to see exactly what kind of movie this is going to be. It looks like it could be a lot of fun. $28.3 million in their weird release strategy from A24. Lost City at $95.2. Maybe it'll cross $100 million worldwide, but again, that's worldwide, not very good for a film that cost as much as it did. Father Stu at $13.8 million. As I mentioned, don't have a budget yet, so can't really say much about whether or not the film will be a success or not. Morbius at $156.5 million pretty much has stopped making money at this point. Ambulance in a similar boat, right, because it's just, again, being pulled from massive amounts of theaters. $46.6 million, not going to get anywhere close to $100 million worldwide. And The Batman continues to make just a little bit of money every single week. $758.9 million now for this film. Looking at the box office charts, because we like to do some charts here, we can now make some estimates for Fantastic Beasts 3 and Father Stu. So with the week 2 total of $280 million for Fantastic Beasts, I'm projecting that this film will make somewhere between $400 million and $560 million. Again, this would be the low end, meaning let's say that it made the vast majority of its money in the first 2 weeks, and then it just stops making money. It has massive drop-offs every single week after. This is likely the scenario of what this film's going to end up being, which would actually very much be historically accurate with the franchise, because the first and second film had about a $200 million difference between the two. So for this one to have a $200 million difference between it and the second film, which was really bad, would not be that much of a surprise. And so I think that is the most likely number that we can expect from this. Highly doubtful that it'll double its money at this point. And so somewhere between 400 and 480, I would say, is more likely of a scenario that will probably happen. Whereas with Father Stu, $13.8 million in its second week means that it is projected to make somewhere between $19 and $27 million. So definitely not a huge moneymaker there, but with no budget, cannot make any actual projections on how much or how much it will make or how little it'll make or how much it will lose, rather. So going back to Fantastic Beasts with the, again, very, very weak second week numbers. Right now it's projected to lose anywhere between $59 million or make $36 million. So most likely scenario, the average of this would be, again, a loss of $11.6 million. And based on current trends, I would say that's pretty accurate. Right now it's at $131 million in losses. And if it continues to have massive drop-offs, it could actually even be able to do worse than even the worst on my own projections, because Morbius has done something very similar with having massive drop-offs. Right now, I had the worst case scenario for Morbius being at $4.1 million, and right now it's at negative $18 million. So again, if something is similar, a similar percentage is seen for Fantastic Beasts, this film could potentially be north of $50 million in losses, which I hope will be a sign to Warner Brothers just to stop the franchise, but also a sign to them that, yeah, screw you and the way you treated Johnny Depp. Not that Johnny Depp is a perfect person, but the fact that Amber Heard is, to my knowledge, still cast in various films and projects, and again, they worship the ground that she walks on, whereas Johnny Depp has become a pariah. Yeah, I think it's that I think they deserve to lose money for this project. The Bad Guys with its opening weekend of $87.1 million, again, $52 million in the red right now, meaning I think this film has a very good chance of making its money back. Right now, it is, again, the actual budget for the film was $70 million, meaning the break even for it is around $175 million. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, hard movie to say. $30 million budget means $75 million is the break even for that. And the Northman's, again, estimate of around 90, right? So there's been different numbers, 70 to 90 million. So I decided to split the difference here and just say 80. So even at $80 million, the film needs to make $200 million worldwide to break even. With only making $23.5 million in its opening weekend, that, and again, the law of diminishing returns, that it seems very unlikely for this movie. And so right now it's at $105.8 million in losses, and I would not be surprised if it continues to stay in that loss category. Remember that these films need to make around 2.5 times their production budget. Right now, this film's around 0.3 of the production budget. So again, if you want this film to succeed and you want more films like it, got to go out and support it, see it several times, and Again, give it the love that you think it might deserve. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, as I mentioned, is still making money. Again, it broke even last week after its second week of release. And here are some of the other numbers as far as net gains and profits. But what are y'all's thoughts about this? Have you seen any of the newer films like The Northman, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, The Bad Guys? Were they any good? Did you like them? Also, are you surprised that Fantastic Beasts is flopping? I really am not. It was kind of the signs. The sign was a bit on the wall, especially with its terrible opening weekend domestically. The fact that it came in underneath the opening weekend of a film like Uncharted, for instance, kind of gave the gig up a little bit early. And so, yeah, do you think this film's going to end up not making or reaching or getting anywhere close to $100 million domestic? And what do you think the final loss on that film is going to be? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, slap that fire button. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Go check me out over at OMB Reviews on YouTube and also on my website if you want to follow further tracking and a deeper dive into some of the other films on this list as well. You guys are great. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.